so very, very late. And oh, why is this playing in the background? Or is
That's
that
me.
that's it? Make it stop! Make it stop!
That's me.
It's just it's
Technology.
all insanity. Okay,
But
it's Back to the Future. This is episode number 42, Life, the Universe, and the Restaurant at the End of the Galaxy, or something along those lines. We have a wonderful show for you tonight, assuming that the technical glitches that have plagued me so many times in the past will not plague me tonight. And of course, we know that's a complete and total lie, that this is going to be a train wreck from start to finish. I already know it is, because I'm seeing delay in everything that I'm doing. So anyway, I just can't even deal with that right now. I just can't even deal with it. So instead, what I'm going to deal with is going on over and saying hi to Warren. Hi, Warren. Mr. Warren Sklar, everybody.
Hello, everybody. How
Hey.
we doing? Yay!
Yay,
Sorry.
it's Warren.
Sorry about it. My phone was not on mute. Evidently, even though the orange thing is on, it was not on mute.
Yeah, and your wife was not happy with you.
No, I cook. We get something called Blue Apron, which
Sure.
is pre-packaged meals and all that. So I cook. Been doing it for about 2 years, and I'm like, from day one, I'm like, I know I'm gonna cut something like on my hand or finger. And today was the day, and it was a deep
Oh, good.
one. Yeah, on my I don't know if you can see it, but it's right. Well, the Band-Aids
Blood.
Yeah.
Ah.
So, anyways, I post on Facebook like after 2 years, I finally did it. And of course, I didn't tell my wife, who's at work, and she's like, "What?" I'm like, "I'm fine.
Yeah, I heard part of
fine.
that conversation. That was
Yeah.
funny. Speaking
my
of
fault.
wives,
Yes,
mine left today.
for good.
Sometimes I think she'd like to think so. No, she she went down to Florida. She's visiting with her sister, as her sister is getting ready to sell her house down there. And you know, I don't know how much you know about real estate, but there is some goofy crap that goes on in real estate. You know, basically, you know, they have this house, and it's completely furnished with nice furniture. You know, it's not crappy furniture, it's nice furniture. But what they want to do is remove all of that furniture and put in this other furniture, this like realtor approved furniture. So they're like staging the house.
Yeah. All right.
And anytime someone, you know, when they do these open houses, anytime anyone's going to come by, the realtor is basically telling my sister-in-law to, you know, get the hell out. You know, we don't want you here while,
Right.
you know, while we're trying to sell your house. So
Yep.
if anyone has any questions, they can ask us and not you, because it's your house. So
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, we've gone through it a couple times, and my feeling is, but they know more than I do about it. So let them. That's why we pay them lots and lots of
6%.
money.
Yeah.
Yes. So
whatever it
let
comes
them
out to.
work and do their staging. So. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yep.
couple things
All
I
right.
wanted to talk about tonight. We got some people there. Hey, Michael
Yeah, we
Lacey.
got Brian.
Hi, Michael. Hi, Brian. And Linda. Linda Renee. I don't know if Linda has joined us before. I don't know if she's from the Back to the Future group or not. Doesn't matter. I know Michael Lacey probably isn't. He's a crazy friend of mine from back in the day. But a couple things that I wanted to talk about tonight, and one of them is, and it's related. I guess it's kind of related to some of the crazy crap that's been going on with Apple, between the whole battery gate thing and the recent brouhaha with Intel chips and ARM chips, and the Meltdown and Spectre, and oh my god. Anyway, there are these two funds that have like $1 billion in Apple stock. Now, if you were talking about, or $2 billion in Apple stock, and you know what, 20 years ago, if there had been a fund that said, hey, we have $2 billion dollars of your stock, you will listen to what we have to say. But when you're talking about Apple stock, $2 billion is really not that much. It's not.
Yep.
Anyway, what these two funds want Apple to do, and I guess it's in the guise of, think of the children, and anytime anyone comes to me with an issue, and if they throw in the think of the children, my hackles start going up and alarm bells are going off in my head, because typically this is not going to end well. And it's I just can't see how this is going to be a good thing. Basically, these investors, they're citing a number of studies that talk about the detrimental effects of smartphone addiction, and they're worried about children that have smartphone addiction. And some of the things they talk about include being less attentive in class, insufficient sleep, and a higher risk of depression and suicide. And I guess what confuses me is, when did parents, and these are two funds in California. It's the California State Teachers Retirement System, also known as CalSTRS, and a hedge fund called JANA. When did parents abdicate their own responsibility for raising their children? When did this become, we're going to have these children, but we're not really going to have any say in what they do? It's like the inmates are running the asylum here. So,
right.
So
there's a couple of things with that.
Yeah, trying to put aside the whole, aren't you supposed to be the parents in this relationship? Yep. They want Apple to add more sophisticated parental controls to their iOS devices that will limit the time the children can spend on them and what content they can access. Mm-hmm. Now, on the face of it, it doesn't bother me so much to have parental controls. And frankly, some built-in parental controls is not necessarily a bad idea. And there are some that are built into it now. But when you start talking about content that you want Apple or Samsung or whoever is making these devices to block this content, who decides that? Who decides what the content is that's going to be blocked? And how do you set up a system from within iOS that is going to be able to follow a standard? Yep. And how many people are going to get pissed off because the standard that Apple followed doesn't meet their criteria?
Right. So there's a lot of things going on here. And I do IT support, that. Mm-hmm. And I get asked a lot by parents, how do I stop my kids from doing blah, blah, blah on this thing? Be it a computer or an iPhone or whatever. The big answer really is parents have no clue how to prevent their kids from seeing things that they shouldn't be seeing.
Them to see. No, not necessarily that they shouldn't be seeing, that the parents don't want them to see.
Well, or both. I mean, that's the thing. So it's, they are clueless when it comes to parental controls. Most people don't even know that, the Mac and the PC have parental controls on it. And then when you get into the iPhone area, it's a whole other problem, because you could try to, do some network level stuff, and, they could just get off your Wi-Fi and do whatever they want. So they really are behind children as far as knowing what to do. And companies are or have been trying to fix this for a while. So now with all the mesh router systems, there's Disney Circle out there. There's a whole bunch of parental controls that are a lot simpler to set up than they used to be, but they don't really work. And like you were saying, it decides what is considered allowable and not. There's most of these things will have a thing that says the circle one, or was it? Yeah, it was Eero, I think. One of the mesh routers had it. I don't remember, but it's basically it was the movie ratings, MA, R, PG-13, PG, or G is basically, and you picked which one you want.
Right.
And that's the best you could do as far as that. So parents just don't know how to stop it. So they're gonna go to Apple and say help. That's what they're gonna do. And the $2 billion is not. Apple is responding not because of the money. They're responding because it's a PR issue.
Sure.
At this point, they could have not. If enough people cry about it, it will come out. So, it's not a bad idea. The iPad and the iPhone do have some parental features in there, but they're not great. The Mac has better parental controls than the iPhone and the iPad. But it's, parents need help. I mean, it's not too much to ask for, I don't think.
Well, my problem is, how do you implement something that really has to go system wide across everything that these devices do? How do you set something like that up without interfering or putting up roadblocks for other people? How do you set it up so that
you're getting to different profiles, I guess, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And also, typically parents, the older generation, and I'm probably the extreme because I'm in my 50s, but most parents these days, they're, if parents of teenagers are going to be in their late 30s, early 40s, which means that as they were growing up, they may or may not have had computers. They certainly didn't have smartphones. And it's, I remember when I was setting up earlier Macs for my kids and trying to set up parental controls, and it's contradictory, it's confusing. Half the time you set it up and then the kids have to come to you every 5 minutes because something they legitimately need to do on the computer. And I'm talking about my own experience. They couldn't do because the parental controls were getting in the way.
Right.
And the other thing is, these kids have grown up with these phones and with these computers, and they certainly know more about them for the most part than their parents do. So what kind of parental controls can you establish that isn't going to interfere with the things that kids need to do with phones, as far as related to school life and home life and sports and calendars and all the rest of that, and make it easy enough for parents to implement, and make it so that the kids can't circumvent it.
And that's not possible.
No.
There's not going to be any way to fully prevent them from doing what you don't want them to do. They have, and we know this stuff, and we understand computers a lot more than the average parent who, has no idea. I mean, we could go, what we could do. We could go into our routers. We could block this.
Sure.
We could block that. We could go. Into
you could do it on a site by site basis. You could do it based on buzzwords and metadata that's related to these sites. That a lot of these sites that have questionable content have to put in so that these parental controls can work. But that's related to sites that's in Europe and the United States. But those same kind of sites are also available in areas of the world where it's a lot more sketchy.
Right. I mean, this is all content filtering. This is not new stuff. I mean,
No.
they've been trying to do this for years and years and years. You're not going to block it all, but it's gotten a lot better. And as things with the circle from Disney and the routers now, you could get granular. You could go, I could block my son's. I could turn off my son's iPhone to the internet right now. I could go on my phone and pick his phone and turn it off. I could go on his phone and go in here and on my phone make sure he's only seeing G-rated content. Do I do it? No. Does my wife ask me to do it? Yes. And I tell her, what do I say? Oh, yeah, I'm doing it. Because I'm not going to do it. Because it's, at this point, I'm just going to trust him. I'm going to watch over him. And I have no reason to do it yet. Because, as you said, there's no way to know for sure it becomes a game to the kids. Once you start doing that, they're going to try to get around it. That's what they're going to do. And
well, so the only way you can kind of get around the kids is if you have access to their browser history, say on the computer, well, either on the computer or with Safari or some of the other browsers that are available with iOS. And, you can look at the sites that it is that they're looking at and, block the ones that you don't think that they should have access to.
And they're not using sites anymore. They're using Snapchat and all that stuff. And so, I would probably say 90% of the problems that kids get into nowadays is going to be Instagram, Snapchat, and not where they're going on the internet anymore. And, it's more of what they're posting and what they're saying. So that, probably is what this group is looking to also do. They want right now I bet nobody knows that you could prevent a child's phone from not being able to install apps.
Oh, sure. But you can. Relatively easy. Especially if it's connected to your own account.
If it's connected to your own account and it's free, then there's a lot of ways to do it. But as you said, it becomes a pain. My friend and neighbor was doing it for a while, and he would call me up and he's like, every time the kids wanted to do something or buy something or update something, they needed a password or a credit card and things like that. So, there's other ways to do it. You could go into the settings, and you go into the restrictions, and you could enable restrictions with a passcode, and you could do things under restrictions. So this group wants to beef up restrictions, I think, is basically what they want to do. They want to make restrictions easier to understand and more robust.
Right. And do that. Well, they don't say this, but the only way that would pass muster would be if Apple could do it in such a way that it didn't put a burden on people that just want to use the phone. And I can't see Apple being able to come up with a system that is going to please, not just these two groups, but everyone that wants parental controls. I think that a better solution is to start looking in the iOS App Store and find parental control applications that you can tailor to whatever criteria it is that you want. I don't think that beyond what Apple is already doing that this really falls into their domain.
Well, the problem is they lock down too much for those apps to do anything. Android has this. When I lived in London, I had a mother who really wanted to watch the kids, and she did research and blah blah blah. She, at this point, this was a couple of years ago, she had to jailbreak her son's device to get this program that she wanted to use to do what she wanted to do, because Apple's system won't allow a third party app to make those kind of changes to the system. So she jailbroke it, and that's what allowed it. And of course that was a pain, so she didn't do it anymore. But it's the problem, that apps can't do it. There's no app that could lock down your phone or your iPad like it could do on a computer.
Well, then they should probably get a different phone for their kids.
All the kids want iPhones, man.
Well, be the parent. You know, if you find Apple's controls to not be restrictive enough, then you need to get a different type of device for your kids and that you can control on your own.
We're not going to solve a 20-year-old problem at this point.
No, probably not.
So Brian makes a point. I'll kind of paraphrase what he's saying, but there's ways where the ISPs or the cell phone providers can lock down access to things, and he puts there's a cell phone parent control app that he linked to. So I mean, there are definitely things out there. So on the that's what I was saying, that you could block whatever you need to block on your network, but as soon as somebody switches off Wi-Fi, then you can't control that. So because you have to, because of the nature of how cell phones work and whether it's connected. I mean, you can connect. There are applications that will allow you to connect via Bluetooth, or via whatever other radios that you have in these types of devices. So you have to lock down Wi-Fi. You have to lock down the cell signals. You have to lock down Bluetooth. You have to lock down basically every single radio that's in these devices. Right. And Apple doesn't do that. Android
and
will.
They're not going
Apple
to.
doesn't.
I hope they never do.
Yep. Well, maybe, who knows? Strangely enough, probably I wouldn't be shocked if Apple came out with a kid-centric iPhone at some point. And I think the iPod Touch was their entry into that.
But the problem with the iPod Touch is if you weren't on Wi-Fi, you had no connectivity outside of that particular device. You couldn't call your parents. You couldn't call anybody.
But parents still loved that because they couldn't. They just wanted to get the data, and they could make Skype calls or something like that. But
if you were on Wi-Fi,
yeah. So maybe a kid-centric type of iPhone wouldn't be maybe a bad idea. I bet it would make money. Those could be locked down. Maybe those you could have access. You log into a website on Apple and you say, this is, I'm going to see logs of everything and I'm going to be able to control. There's, things out there called MDM, which are used in schools and some businesses. It's called mobile device management. And basically it will, to an extent, roll out certain policies and things to iOS devices that will tell it what it can and cannot do. And basically if they roll out a parent MDM, I could see that doing well. Something like that.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
Let's move on to anyone who has a comment. I know I've left the number here, the whatever that Zeno live number is up there, but for I couldn't get it working tonight, and I should probably just let me do this. Let me just turn that off. Okay, now it's off.
I did. I think I had Juno. So what? CompuServe. My order was CompuServe, Juno, and then AOL. At least.
I started. What was it? There was one. It was like IBM and Sears had this thing. Prodigy. Yeah, I started with Prodigy because they gave you a modem. It was like a 2400 baud modem. Oh, it was such a horrible service. And then I slid right into AOL from there.
And then we all wallpapered our rooms with the discs and the
yes.
First they were floppies, and then they were CDs. CDs. Yep.
All right.
What's next?
Next topic is there's been updates to the macOS and iOS for Meltdown and Spectre. If you guys remember from last week, and of course the MyMac show, we were talking about how these are flaws that have been resonant within. Excuse me. Tired.
Yeah.
Resident within Intel and ARM chips for a long time, and it has something to do with Damn, I can't even say it. Speculative computing, where basically there's all kinds of commands that are being pushed out ahead of whatever it is you're doing, because the computer is basically trying to guess what it is you're going to do next, so it'll speed the process up. And that kind of led to these two things. Yeah, so Apple, they had an update, I think, in December that dealt with a little bit of this. And then these new updates, I believe, are mostly related to Spectre, which is they can basically do things to screw up your computer via JavaScript or Java through the browser. Right. Unfortunately, now I did install the macOS update, and then spent 2 days trying to fix my computer because NVIDIA. Now, I don't know if everybody knows this, but I know, Warren, you know this. I bought a new video card for the 2010 Mac Pro that I have, hoping to alleviate some of the issues that I've been having with doing this live cast. And it's sort of worked. The CPU usage has gone way down. At this point, I think I just need to keep screwing with the settings in OBS until I find something that works really well. It's still a work in progress. But when I did the update, because NVIDIA hadn't updated their drivers for the update, completely screwed my system up.
Yeah, I saw the video of it.
Yeah, fortunately,
it was possessed.
Once a week, I do because I've got multiple drives in this thing. Most of my documents and things along those lines are on OneDrive. The OS and applications is on an SSD. And I save the contents of that SSD once a week with Carbon Copy Cloner to another drive that's resident within the computer. So, I was able to boot off of that other drive. And then I figured, okay, well, what I'll do is I'll boot off the other drive and then use Disk Utility to wipe the SSD, and then use Carbon Copy Cloner from the clone drive back onto it so that I can get to the state that the computer was in before I did the update. The problem was using Disk Utility on the cloned drive, which was a standard spindle drive. It would not let me wipe that drive. It was
locked.
Yeah,
it was locked.
It wouldn't let me do it. So you actually came up with a suggestion to boot into recovery mode. And then while in recovery mode, use Disk Utility there to wipe the drive, and then boot back into the clone drive to reclone it back over to the SSD. And that's what finally worked. So I'm on the SSD right now.
So if you had an iMac Pro, you couldn't do that anymore. The iMac Pro will not let you boot into anything other than its own hard drive.
Really?
So you can't boot. You would not be able to boot to an external Carbon Copy Cloner drive.
Really?
Anymore. Oh yeah, that's secure boot. Secure boot.
Is there any way to disable that, or is that?
Nope. In fact, if you ever need to reinstall the operating system, you have to go to Apple, because you cannot. The Option key does nothing, as far as I know. There's no booting into anything. Secure boot. Technically, without secure boot, I could, and we had somebody said something about this, but I could take a external drive, install Mac OS on it,
and take over your computer
with a whole bunch of hacking tools on there. Walk up to somebody's computer, turn it off, and boot up
just with like a USB stick.
With a USB stick, but with a USB stick. At that point, you can see you'll still have you'll have access to the machine, but when you try to get into the home directory, it will still not
Keep
let
you
you
out.
in with the permissions. Yeah.
Right.
But you'll be able to get to things outside the home directory. You'll be able to, and so it was enough for Apple to stop that. But yeah, these patches, huh? So the patches are supposedly not slowing anybody down, although Tim Cook did come up to the podium and with everybody watching said, we released some software updates. It may slow down your computer. I repeat, we've done this on purpose. It may slow down your computer. Do not sue us.
This time. Don't sue us this time. Yeah, I don't. Hopefully, as far as Meltdown and Spectre goes, that Apple is being Well, I can't at the moment. I have to wait until NVIDIA comes out with a new driver for this card, GTX 980.
I've had people email me. It's like on the news they told me I have to do my updates and Windows and Mac, and I'm like, relax.
Yeah.
Nobody's unless your name is Bill Gates or or Merrill Lynch. Nobody is going to try to hack you. No. And as far as I know, there hasn't been a successful one anyway. So people, I would just do it when you're ready to do it.
Yeah. Well, what I've been hearing is that any exploits that come out won't really be geared toward individuals, more along the lines of trying to get into server farms and things along those lines. So honestly, Meltdown and Spectre have been kind of blown out of proportion, at least as far as individual users go, as to the severity of what it actually is. It's really not. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Yeah,
I mean, and Apple's get you mentioned it before, but Apple gets the news. Every news story is Apple admits that its devices are susceptible to these vulnerabilities. Yeah. And
without them saying, and especially with this, without them saying, well, it's not just Apple, it's everybody.
Right.
But Apple is the clickbait that brings people in.
But it's if anything, Apple should feel a little good about it, because it's literally, to me, it's saying, well, all these other computer companies, we all know that they they're insecure and they have their security issues. Sure. So this is normal. This is day-to-day operations for them. And but Apple with the security and blah blah blah, that so I think it's some of that too, saying it's a bigger story that Apple's devices could be insecure, because there's been 20 or 30 years of news stories about Microsoft being insecure daily. So it's not news anymore.
Now it's like, what? Again, nothing up my sleeve. Presto. Wrong hat.
Everybody, we know, right? We know that the Microsoft, Windows. Yeah, I know. If that was a person, I would shoot it. Oh, I'm starting to watch the IT Crowd. By the way, I'm on season 3, halfway through it. Great show.
Yeah, awesome. The very first episode of season 2 where the guy commits suicide was just, and that's not to make fun of suicide or anything, but it was
hysterical.
It's actually really funny. Anyway, blah blah. Listen, for people that haven't seen the IT Crowd, it's a UK show.
It's awesome.
It's hysterical.
Watch it.
Have you seen the internet one, the internet show yet?
That was 2 episodes ago. Yeah, I saw the whole thing. At the end, it was great.
Oh my god. Okay.
People having sex.
They're like going insane. We've broken the internet.
It was a scene from Airplane, right? When the airplane was going down, and there's all.
Does anyone know how to fly the plane?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna take a little break. When we come back, I've just got one other thing to talk about real quick. So we'll try to keep this show a little bit shorter. Anyway, hold on. We'll be right back.
This This is Private Eye Macintosh, and I'm here to tell you about a book written about me and my search for the Maltese Cube. Yes, it's a fine book. I think you should get it. Quiet, you. It combines technology, Mac trivia, action, murder, suspense. Oh, just tell them where to get it. I'll get to that. Romance, film noir detective fiction. I can't stand it anymore. It's called The Maltese Cube, and it was written by my Mac writer and podcaster Guy Searle. Find it on Amazon. It's only $2.99 and coming soon to the Apple's iBook store. Don't forget, it's The Maltese Cube and so inexpensive. You know you're not in it, right? I mean the next one, right? Sure thing, Louis. You know, this could be the start of a beautiful friendship. Get the Maltese Cube on Amazon and soon in the iBook store.
Okay. Whoa, that was rather abrupt. We're back. Yeah, one thing about OBS, it's like, you can do these fades where it's going to fade from one scene to another. But apparently audio isn't involved in that, so when it goes from one scene to the other, the audio just like cuts off immediately, and it's like, nothing jarring about that at all.
Yeah. There you go.
Last thing to talk about for the evening, unless you've got something else, is that Apple has started selling the 10.5-inch iPad Pros in the refurb store. This is for those of you who think that the 12.9-inch model is too big and the 9.7 model was too small and the 10.5-inch model was just right. And that, of course, the price was too high no matter what model it was. There's a wide variety of different iPad Pros, 10.5-inch iPad Pros available. Most of them are like 15% off of retail. And if you've never bought a refurbed Apple product before, they have the exact same warranty as brand new Apple machines. You can get Apple Care on them. So, don't worry if, you're thinking that, oh my God, I'm going to buy this thing and then people had it before and it could break and Apple will say, ha ha ha, we have your money, blah, blah, blah. No, Apple will take care of it if there's any problems.
The iPad, I have the 10.5. It's the first larger one that I bought in a while. I had the mini. I have recently, before that, I had the mini 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I went from the mini to the iPad Pro, and it's gorgeous. I mean, it's really nice.
I actually never had a mini.
I miss my mini a lot. The mini to me was just reading in bed, playing a couple of games before I go to bed, because it's not too big to hold in the bed, and it's not, creating like a suntan for my wife in there either. So it was a good size. So I tried to, so when I went to the iPad Pro, I got really sad and I went through like 3 Android tablets I went through 3 Android tablets trying to replace it without spending. By principle, I didn't want to buy another Mini 4 because I sold one. Literally, I'd be selling it and then buying it again. I would have lost like $1 million on it. So, so anyways, now I use my iPhone in bed, which is fine. But the iPad Mini was good. I would love to see them do something again with it. They're not going to, but I would like to see.
No, probably not.
But the iPad Pro is a good machine. Definitely the fastest iPad out there. They don't make the 9.7-inch Pro anymore. You know that. And the 12-inch, my mom has one. She brought it over this week, and my son's like, did you bring your television with you? It's huge.
I started with a first gen iPad, and then I got the third gen, and I used that third gen until the 12.9. The first gen iPad Pro came out, the 12.9 inch, and loved it. I was waiting for a larger screen than the 9.7. So when the 12.9 came out, it was like, okay, I've been using this third gen iPad for 4 years. So I felt like I had gotten my money's worth out of that third gen at that point. And so I went ahead and I bought the 12.9, 128 gigs, cell, with cell and all the rest of that. I was so happy with it. Until 6 months later, they replaced it for the exact same price that had twice the storage. It's like,
256.
Yeah, I was not happy.
I mean, luckily the 10.5 has not been changed, so I've been not having any kind of envy with that for a while. But it will. They'll come out with something else with the 10.5.
What is this that Brian is saying? That's good. Yes, I know we know, and you know that we know, but does everybody else know that we know?
We're playing with each other. It's him and I doing some inside we know jokes. So
okay.
It's all good. It's all good.
All right. Well, then that would explain why people should join the Mac to the Future Facebook group, which is the parent group of this live cast. Actually, up until 4 or 5 weeks ago, you could only see this. You could only see this wonderful content.
Exclusive only.
Exclusive
pay-per-view.
only.
It's like pay-per-view event.
If you were on the Mac to the Future Facebook page, and I decided that I wanted to try to expand the audience for the show a little bit, which is why I'm now doing it. Through general Facebook Live.
Half the Mac to the Future page can't find the live cast at this point, so it's you've gone full circle on that one. So,
well, once I get this all edited, the first place it goes is, I have to put it onto YouTube first because I can't just upload.
No, but they want to be on now. They want to be the live in the moment. They don't want to watch. Who wants to watch something like after it happened?
Well, I do what I can. I do what I can. But if you can, please join the Mac. If you're a Mac user, join the Mac to the Future Facebook page. It's a great page. Great people that are there. We guarantee that there will be
debates.
There's sometimes it gets a little snarky. As a matter of fact, I had to put somebody in timeout earlier today.
So I do want to, when you're done, I want to mention something with that.
Go ahead. No, I'm done.
So with the battery thing, and this is going to be my last comment on it, and I'll put a period after this. But the problem with the battery thing was that I worked at an authorized Apple store. I've been to Apple stores. I've heard people come in complaining and saying their phone seems slower than it used to be. And I've said, and Apple employee geniuses have all said that you're crazy in their mind, that it's not slowing down. That's the problem. That the communication internally to Apple wasn't there. Not to the public, but if Apple knew that was happening, Apple repair shops should know that this is happening, and they could have sold a lot of batteries at the full price at that point. So that's what they did wrong. It was communication within mostly, and certainly with the public, but nothing was sabotage. Nothing was evil.
Well, and honestly, I doubt if Apple's upper management knew about this at all. That it wasn't until, because essentially what was going on were phones were shutting down. Older phones with
we all know that,
with weaker batteries were just shutting down under certain processes. Yeah. So Apple's management went to Apple's software engineers and said, "Here's this problem. Can you fix it through software?" Yeah. And so the engineers sat down, they did their little magic and said, "Oh yeah, sure. If we slow down the CPU a little bit on phones that have older batteries, then the phones won't shut down." And I doubt they even communicated that with management. They just said, "Okay, here's your fix, and it should take care of it." And so they put it out, and phones stopped shutting down.
But the thing is, after years of people complaining about their phone maybe kind of slowing down, to Apple stores, somewhere along that chain of techs going up, somewhere there's going to be a log of 100 people a month coming in and complaining about slow iPhone 6Ss. and then going to enough people where Apple's going to say, oh yeah, that's right. If the battery gets depleted, this happens. That never happened. That chain of when did the 6S come out?
All they did was it was an earlier update where they talked about power management, and there was some suggestion related along the lines of CPU slowing down a little bit, but I mean, you had to really, really look for it, and
right.
it was not communicated well.
And the software that caused it only started with a more recent software update, I think. But as a tech, and when people came into my store, it's looking back, it wasn't a good thing for us to say that they are wrong and their phone was not slowing down when it was, and that's the trust. So
okay,
that's all I got about. That's my issue with it, is more of an internal employee-wide, and I would have gotten out, but an employee-wide system, and they have the systems in place saying when an iPhone 6S or whatever gets a battery that needs to be replaced, it does this, and then you go from there and have a procedure.
Yeah, and they never did that.
Nope. So
okay, well, they're doing it now, but kind of forced into it.
People are asking for free batteries now. But go ahead.
Well, $29. You know what? It's a 3 to 4 year old phone. Spend $29 to get your functionality back.
Exactly.
Whiners. Anyway,
yeah.
Join the Mac to the Future Facebook group if you'd like to. Both Warren and I are very active there, and we have a pretty good time. That is basically where people can find you, isn't it, Warren? Is over there on the Mac to the Future Facebook group?
Yeah, I need to get a life. I need to do something else. Yeah, I'm there. I'm always there.
Okay. And I think, you know what? I think you have a mactothefuturego.com or mttfgo.com email address. I thought I
do.
Given one to you and given one to Ed Eisen.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody really wants to email something to me, you could do and my last name is sklar @gmail.com. If I could imagine what you would want to send me, but if it's money, that's not my PayPal address.
That's always fun.
I'll give you the PayPal address if you want to send
money.
Yeah.
My email address is guy@mttfgo.com. I am Mac Parrot over on the Twitters. And Mac, you can thank you for that. You can also reach us via a Skype number that I have set up. It's area code 703-436-9501, which is amazingly very similar to the exact same number that Gaz and I use over at the mymac.com podcast. We are actually, real quick, we are 11 shows away from the 700th episode of the mymac.com podcast. And Gaz and I, as a team, have only been doing it since 285, only since episode 285. We just had our 400th show. 400th show, which was 685, that we've done more or less together over the last 8-9 years. Anyway, I think Warren, do you have anything else, or are we good?
I think we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, check out CES stuff. There's always some posts about some fun things to buy.
Yep.
If you want, I know I am. It's
and
expensive time of year. Go ahead.
It is. It's very expensive. I want that toy. Yes. I want that toy. Thank you all, everyone who's been here live. Thank you all for being here and for all your great comments. For the people that aren't watching it live but are watching it via YouTube or on Facebook after it gets edited, thank you as well. And I guess if that's going to be it, we will see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Yep. All right.
Closing theme is done. We're back on.
This is a closing theme to our show.
Oh,
The
Patrick
closing-
Dillon just joined us. Patrick, so glad you're here. The show's over.
You're late. You're late.
You're too late. You
We
are
said 8
too
o'clock.
late. We did say 8 o'clock. It's almost 9 o'clock. I don't know where you're watching from, Patrick. 8 o'clock. That's when we do it. 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time every Wednesday night. That's all you got to remember.
It's 9 o'clock, probably about 100 miles outside of the Atlantic Ocean, I would say.
Yeah.
Or Nash. It's 10 o'clock there. No.
Yeah.
It's 2018, not 17.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
2018 now. Oh, my closing graphic says
your closing
2017?
graphic. Yeah.
Okay.
I saw
I'll have
it.
to see if I can find it. It's
I saw
over
a really funny picture. Sorry. I saw a really
No,
funny
go ahead.
picture with a number pad on a keyboard with a big nail sticking out from the 7 key stuck up.
Oh, so if you hit that, you jam your finger or something.
Well, for the people still typing 2017, it's like 2007. So it's
I have.
That's a joke.
The first 2 weeks of the year, I have to consciously prevent myself from doing that in all my correspondence online. It's like 2017. No. It's 2018 now.
I don't even write the date, but I was writing out a check, and of course it was 17 I wrote on there. So, it's 2018.
Let's see. Who is it? Frank Petrie is saying if I can find. I should be able to find it. I did it in Adobe Premiere, so it should still be there somewhere. And then, because it wasn't like I used some other program to put the whole closing. The whole closing thing was done entirely in Adobe Premiere Elements, and I just took things like the moose and the Back to the Future car that I found online and the Back to the Future logo that other people did, and then used that to brought it into the screen and made it fade and do all kinds of just all the standard stuff that you can do with the video editor. So I should be able to find it, and I should be able to edit it.
If it's too hard, just keep the year 2017 forever.
Yeah, and do you realize that because I'm saying 2017, that means that people could steal my content, saying, it's only good through 2017. You didn't put it in for 2018.
Yeah, you need some of those Apple lawyers.
No, I stay away from lawyers as a general, for general reasons. Anyway, I think we are going to end this. So thanks again, everyone who is still watching. There's at least 3 people, and I think you're probably one of them. So
a couple people couldn't find the exit out button, or they fell asleep while watching, which could happen too. Yeah.
Okay, well, bye everybody.
See ya.